Welcome to a new episode of Opening Bid. I'm Yahoo Finance Executive Editor Brian Sozzi. Now let's make some money and hopefully get a lot smarter. Here with me now is a special guest, EMJ Capital founder and president Eric Jackson. Eric, good to see you. Yahoo Finance OG, welcome back into the fold after many, many years.
Great to see you, Brian.
Yeah, likewise. So, look, I've been following your tech work for eons. We may both look young. We've been doing this for a while. So let's start on the AI bubble. It's a term that gets tossed out there a lot, but is it a bubble, and how would you even quantify a tech bubble?
I don't think it is a bubble. I think it's basically one company dominating now with Nvidia. And I would argue, and we can get into this later, that they are actually not even valued in a bubblicious way at the moment, given their future expectations and where they might be going. So if you kind of set them aside, like point to me all the companies, these like so-called like dozens of .com, IPOs that we saw back in the day, like in 98, 99. Point me to the, 200x PE multiples where these public companies are trading at. Even in the private markets, I mean, I just don't see it. I don't see that evidence. So there's a lot of excitement for sure. I think the excitement is justified. I think there's a lot of investment that's going on right now, and we're getting to the point in the story where people are sort of saying, "Oh, well, we've been investing for 18 months now since ChatGPT came out, and so like, where's the evidence that this is really helping companies? Where's the revenue?" And with the exception of maybe like Meta, which has obviously juiced its revenue and earnings by the big investment that they've made in the Nvidia chips. We haven't seen it elsewhere, and so therefore people are saying, therefore it's a bubble. Therefore, Nvidia, there's been two double, triple orders. This thing's about to crash and fall in space. But I just don't agree. I just think there's a longer time horizon playing out here, and the markets are being much more rational in how they're pricing companies today relative to .com.
I purposely buried your NVIDIA analysis in all my questions at the end, Eric, so people will listen to this because I know you've been really talking about NVIDIA. So it's a little, I'm not trying to trick anyone. I just want to save like the real awesome stuff to the end. But okay, so it's not a bubble. I hear you. But are you seeing signs of overvaluation? I look at, about a week ago, we got a downgrade on ServiceNow. And the play on ServiceNow, great company, Bill McDermott, top executive, but the play on ServiceNow about a month ago, AI play, big AI build out, they're a winner. But the downgrade, I think it was Guggenheim, suggested something otherwise. I mean, do you think more of those downgrades are coming because these stocks have come too far too fast, and that AI profit realization may not be coming so quickly?
Well, I like ServiceNow. I think it hasn't gotten the pixie dust. I don't think sprinkled on it. In fact, in some ways, the repricing that we've seen in big SaaS names like Adobe, ServiceNow, Salesforce, this just in the past quarter, I think that's been a result of CIOs reallocating budget this year away from upgrades to whatever the current SaaS system that they're using in favor of putting dollars towards investing in AI. So I don't see that. And when I look around at other companies that are so-called AI companies like Palantir, yeah, they've had a great run off of their like maybe December 2022 lows. And I'm sure there's some AI hype mixed in there, but I don't find like the valuations like a PE basis like overly stretched. So back in the day, like Cisco was, I think it got up to Cotu, had a slide recently in like some investor presentation they did where I think they maxed out like 150 times forward PE.
Totally normal, right?
Yeah, I mean, and there was just, we saw revenue-less companies IPOing. Like we just don't see that today. I don't know. Point me to these bubblicious AI companies. I want to see them.
Well, let me ask you this then. Do you think we will see it because of how promising the technology is? If we're not in a bubble today, do you think we are about to enter one because of the promise on this technology and what it might mean to profits, cash flow, you name it, for these companies?
I think that's possible for sure. I think we're at the state. There's like a famous graph like where the investor expectations get really hyped up initially, and then there's like the dip where like we the trough of disillusionment or something like that. I think people refer to it as. And then eventually like there's a rebound on the other side where people say, oh well, like this thing really, I guess mobile phones are here to stay, and people like sort of get on board again. And I think we're probably sort of coming down the slope into the trough of disillusionment, where I think there's a lot of I think a lot of people want to see Nvidia fall flat on its face because they missed it, and they want to be proven right that it didn't work out. And I think there's a possibility, like again, like that because so many people are investing in trying to build their own AI models, and we haven't yet seen kind of them hit pay dirt with some new magical application for ServiceNow or for whoever that's making that investment on the scale of like a chat GPT yet, that I think people are kind of ready to say, oh, it's not working, and therefore Nvidia is overvalued or company X is overvalued. So I think that's a risk. But I saw an interview with I think it was the Anthropic CEO recently, where he was saying, hey, we're definitely betting the company on this, and people might think like, I don't see the evidence. It's like we've planted the seeds in the ground and like yelling at the farmer that I don't see evidence yet of the corn crops, and so this Anthropic guy was saying like, we believe the corn is going to come up. You just got to give us a few months, and and if we're right, we're going to harvest the crop. And if not, we're not going to eat this winter, type of thing was his sort of answer. And I side with him.
You see it. You've been doing this for a while, Eric. You've seen it. You're actively looking through decks, financial presentations, earnings call transcripts, you name it. How do you, in this type of environment when everyone is so excited, how do you just spot bullshit? You're watching a deck, you see something, and you're like, I don't know how they're going to make money on AI. Because what I'm trying to do here is I would like to protect investors who are hearing a lot of hype out there and getting excited about this and thinking profits go up on a straight line for these tech companies. But I mean, you and I both know that's not the case.
No, and in my own firm, like I run a tech-focused hedge fund, and we've been building AI models to help us with the stock selection and portfolio management process. And you sort of think like it's going to be relatively straightforward. You collect a lot of data, throw it into an AI algorithm, and great investment results are going to come out on the other side. And it's not that simple, and it is complex. It's not, you go down a lot of blind alleys and stuff like that. And I think the same is going to be true for a lot of other companies that are making these kinds of investments. So in terms of you're being mindful of protecting, investors, I think investors should just expect that, when you hear big promises like that, some company is about to like just flip the switch and see its revenues, double or triple, in a short period of time. I think that's probably unlikely. Nvidia has been a public company for I think 24 years, 25 years. So
Yeah, they're not going anywhere. They're not going anywhere.
well, yeah, and it was a 24-year overnight success, right? And so like now they're in the catbird seat selling their chips, but it took a lot of investment and stuff. So I just think that yeah, the revolution will come with AI, but just because somebody comes on and says, this company is the greatest thing since sliced bread, and they're gonna kill it in AI. I mean, I think you just need to be. You're right to kind of keep your bullshit detector on and just do some research and not just jump in with both feet.
How do you even go upon building a model to find great AI companies? We don't have time to, I think, actually go really in depth into your process, but like, what are some of the variables that you're putting in there right now?
Well, I'm trying to look for the best tech investments, not necessarily like there's only so many public companies that are AI, companies. And so I think it's a bigger it's a bigger set if I look at just at tech companies. But there's and obviously there's all like the technical factors that you hear people come on air and talk about. Oh, it's above the 50-day moving average. Its volume was this. It broke its all-time highs on that. I mean, there's literally hundreds of those kinds of technical features. And then for each of those features, like you can take the second or third derivative of those, like the rate of change of, how much it's sort of exceeding its prior all-time high and all this kind of stuff. Then there's obviously fundamental factors that you can look, all the balance sheet, income statement type stuff you can look at. There's short interest, there's insider stock transactions. And you can really like start, choking on drinking the fire hose of information there. And so to really kind of parse it out and find out which factors matter when and which factors matter to which companies. Often like there's a big difference between what drives a mega cap Mag 7 type of stock versus a mid cap like a Carvana type of stock. It can be very different. And so that's where AI helps, because for a human mind, like to keep all those variables, straight in your head and weight them differently for different size companies or different, at different stages of their life cycle, it's really difficult. So machines can help a lot. I think AI is going to help a lot. Not, that's a complex task. Now multiply that across all industries, and you get a sense of how powerful this stuff can be. But it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take years.
Why do I think I'm going to get a bill from you, Eric, for that model creation in real time? I mean, my email is brian.sozzi@yahoofinance.com. We're all friends here. Hang with us, Eric. We're going to go for a quick break. We'll be right back. All right, Eric, we're talking all things AI. Let's talk some individual stocks here. And I have to push aside my natural inclination to ask you about Apple, because I think you and I were talking about Apple like a decade ago. So let me brush that to the side for a second. Do you view Tesla as an AI company?
I think that's a fair argument. I'm not. I don't own it at the moment. I missed the recent kind of run up.
Yeah, it's up for 10. It's up for what, 10 straight days, 80% from the April lows. I look, to me, my read was, initially, I mean, they make cars, but the move in the stock would suggest maybe they are that AI play.
Well, I think the really interesting models are obviously a function of compute power behind it, and that's why all these like hyperscalers are like spending billions and billions to buy as many chips as they can get from Jensen, times the data. And Tesla has millions and millions of miles driven as data that's going into their FSD. And with their latest update, you're really seeing not just a handful of stories, but quite a bit of folks who are remarking how much of a stepwise improvement it is over prior versions. And it kind of reminds me of like the way that ChatGPT all of a sudden just emerged as amazing kind of overnight. And yet, like you probably remember, I don't know how many years I heard about companies investing in big data, and like all this stuff. And then like you're like,
What's
well,
big
what do they
data?
have to show? Yeah, what happened with that? What do they have? What does anybody have to show for all those investments and stuff? And then all of a sudden, like magically, this we got ChatGPT. So I think Tesla's got a lot of data. It's interesting, like, Elon took a lot of arrows in the back for buying Twitter. Twitter obviously brings a lot of data. I don't know if it's $40 billion worth of data, but, he clearly sees the importance of that as a co-founder of OpenAI. So I definitely do think that they are an AI play. And, their results in their last quarter about energy were also kind of very eye-popping. And I saw a note out just this morning from Adam Jonas talking about how Tesla Energy is it worth more than the Tesla, the car company, and the AI kind of component to energy storage. So it's I definitely put in the AI camp.
Do you think their technology is at the point where in our lifetime, we are looking at Tesla robotaxis, and I bring this up, August 8th event. I was talking to Bradley Tusk. He's worked with Elon Musk before. He doesn't see them, and of course he's an early backer in Uber, but he doesn't see Tesla crushing Uber. But there is a potential there for robotaxis. I mean, is there technology that advanced from an AI perspective that, we are finally near that point where maybe I'm just going to ditch my car and call a robotaxi from Tesla?
We're going to find out. We'll have a lot better idea after the 8/8 event. I do think that it's, like the comments I was just making about FSD's improvement. Obviously, that's going to be a big part of it. And you hear a lot of rave reviews that like, I don't even have to do anything. I don't have to intervene anymore like I used to on most of my rides. It sort of sounds like you're in a robotaxi. I also think it's interesting that Elon followed Travis Kalanick like maybe a week or two ago.
Yeah.
And you say sort of like, well, what's the importance of that? The guy doesn't follow, like I don't know. I see that as significant. Like, we'll find out. There's some people have already started to speculate that Travis is going to be announced at the 8/8 event as the head of Robotaxi. I think that would be phenomenal for Tesla's stock if that was the case, and Travis was going to come into the company and play a big role. But we'll see. That might not be, but the fact that there's that relationship at least, where Elon's following him on X, don't forget about that.
Yeah, I was just thinking, Elon does not follow me, but you know who does follow me, Eric? Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, which is pretty cool. He started following me a couple years ago. We all have. You have to have a celebrity follower, don't you? Besides me.
I don't have The Rock. So you got me there, Brian. No. I have some celebrity like finance people.
Oh, that's cool. No, that's in our sphere. That's actually
probably.
Speaking of X, like what's his end game? I remember you following Twitter when they are a public company. Is this an IPO at some point? You think he just IPOs it and gets through it, or he's just the owner of X for the next couple decades, loves the data, loves the attention, wants full control of it?
I think he loves the data. I think he loves like the political importance that it brings to him, which probably can't be understated. But at the end of the day, Elon's a capitalist, and so I would be shocked if this was not an IPO at some point. It's clearly like there's this Grok AI play. Maybe he merges it into XAI or something like that, the way he seems to do with, all of his companies kind of fold in together at some point. So I think I'm sure he's got a financial plan at the end of the day. I was thinking just the other day, it still amazes me that here we are still tweeting away or whatever he calls it, posting on X. And they fired 80% of the workforce. Like what were those people doing? Like, it's just amazing to me. Yeah, and it makes you wonder like how many other companies in big tech, could do that size riff. And
they're probably they're applying over at Nvidia, which brings us to one of our final topics here. Your call on Nvidia, sir. I saw some posts out there on Xland. You were calling for, or are calling, you think a $6 trillion market cap for Nvidia is possible?
Yeah, possible this year. And so
this year,
the reason is, by the end of the year. And here's my
hold on a second. So wait, Nvidia is a $3.2 trillion company, and you see $6 trillion by the end of the year.
I could see this thing hitting up, between 200 and 250 per share by the end of this year. And so the reason is that in the last 5 years, if you go back and look at what, how the forward price earnings multiple has varied for Nvidia over that 5-year period. And this is true for most stocks. Like you go through these like ups and downs constantly, where there's this like euphoric reaction to maybe they have this like incredible earnings report, and suddenly like the company becomes very expensive on a go forward multiple basis. And then they have like a more humdrum earnings report, and suddenly those forward multiples drop dramatically. And despite the fact that obviously the stock price for Nvidia has like just been ripping for over a year now, since like May of 2023, and it's, I don't know, it tripled last year, and I think it's doubled this year. The forward multiple has actually been below the mean for most of that move. In other words, like on a go forward basis, it's almost like Wall Street has thought this was going to be like kind of like, okay, they had another good quarter, but now it's going to slow down significantly from here, and we're going to kind of go back to very low levels. That, and in terms of like how they were pricing this thing, it is, we're not, and yet like over that 5-year period, there have been 3 times where the forward multiple has gotten up to like, there was one time it was like 55 times forward earnings. One, it was like 63 times forward earnings when it peaked out. And there was one time where it almost got to 70 times forward earnings. And then it kind of quickly receded. Most of the last year, this thing has been like one standard deviation below the mean on a go-forward basis. And just right now, this thing is about 39 times forward earnings, 40 times, which puts it right at the mean. So my belief is that, we're now kind of going up again with Nvidia. And it would not surprise me that we see another strong earnings report this fall from Nvidia.
Well, Eric, that would be a seismic event. I mean, adding $3 trillion in market cap inside of a year, I mean, it's a whole other company, like three or four other companies. So, I mean, do you see it like, is it the next earnings report? Is that seismic shock? I mean, where orders just really, almost like we saw last year, they came out and they blew everything away, reset guidance up, and just changed everybody's thinking on the name?
Well, step away from the market, the dollars of market cap that are being added, and just think of it from percentage terms. Like last year, Nvidia basically tripled. Like I said, this year it's doubled, and I'm saying like it could double again between now and the end of the year. And so it's either going to be at the August earning. The next earnings is in August, and then the one after that I think is November. So I'm not sure, but I think definitely we'll see evidence in the August report of initial appetite for the Blackwell chips. And we know that those things are priced higher than the H100s, H200s. So it might be then, but certainly by November, we'll have evidence of like the real operating results. And we'll find out if some of these bears on Nvidia who are saying like, oh, well, people have just been double, triple ordering and it's going to come back to earth is right. Or we're going to find out that, well, there's still insatiable demand for these chips. And this thing isn't going to let up real soon. And the margins on Blackwell are even like better than what they've been delivering for the last year, which has already like blown our socks off. And so I think, again, like, I don't know if it's going to be August, I don't know if it's going to be November, but I think there is going to be this euphoric reaction. And if it goes back to a 65x forward earnings, you're there. You're there at like 250 per share.
Well, now I was excited about NVIDIA's next earnings report. Now I'm really, really, really excited. We're going to have to leave it there. EMJ Capital founder and president Eric Jackson, good to see you. Welcome back to Yahoo Finance, and expect another call from us right after that NVIDIA report, because we're having you back on. Eric, really good to see you, and we'll talk to you soon. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Brian.
All right, and that's it for the latest episode of Opening Bid.